Were ancient Egyptian mummies used to make paint in the Victorian era? This is one definitely more true than some of those other misinformation campaigns that I've talked about, but there are some nuances that you guys do kind of need to know. Let's talk about Mummy Brown. So you probably heard the phrase, the Victorians ate ancient Egyptian mummies, which was actually the grinding down of mummies to make a medicine called mummia. And that's actually not true. It was a practice not done by the Victorians, but by much, much earlier Europeans. And I have a whole playlist about this practice, so go look at that one. But the making of Mummy Brown also has much earlier origins, some indications as early as the 12th century, which tells me that the grinding down of Egyptian mummies was used for both making paints and making medicines, which actually makes a lot of sense because apothecaries or early pharmacists were essentially chemists, and they could make paint on the regular because the ingredients used in medicines could be very colorful and you could very easily make paints with things like tree sap. But the one thing about Mummy Brown that I don't think everybody knows about is that while yes, it was made of the grinding down of ancient Egyptian mummies, it was also made by the grinding down of something called a Guanche mummy, which unfortunately are the mummified remains of the Guanches, an indigenous inhabitant of the Canary Islands, who also mummified their dead. So it doesn't appear that it has to specifically do with ancient Egyptian mummies, it's just any mummified person or even animal. We know that they even later used mummies of criminals and potentially enslaved people to make the paint that you can see in this painting here. Mummy Brown was popular from the mid-18th to 19th century, but began to fall out of popularity at the end of the 19th century. Mainly this was because of diminished fresh supply, and the artists were less satisfied with the permanence and finish of the paint itself. It actually fades very easily and it cracks when it's used alone. So while this practice did occur during the Victorian age and at one point did use ancient Egyptian mummies, it wasn't always Egyptian mummies and it wasn't always ancient mummies.